Jenna, thank you so much for having us. I'm so happy to be here. It's impossible not to be happy walking in your home because it's so colorful and so fun.
I love to hear that. Thank you so much for being here.
I loved getting to have you on the podcast a couple years ago and being introduced to your work because no one does color like you.
Thanks.
So I knew in your own home you would really pull out all the stops, and you have. So I can't wait to share with our audience this gorgeous, gorgeous space.
Yeah, here we go. Let's go see.
So tell me first, I know you've been in your house for a little bit, but you recently finished a renovation. So why don't you just sort of walk us through what all you did in your project?
So sometimes, renovation will snowball a little bit. And the first thing we wanted to do was just raise the casings in all the doorways. So to make it higher, then you have to, change the trim. And then once you do one door, you want to move to the next door. And then, what about the windows? And it just kind of snowballed all the way to the whole first floor of the house.
Wow.
So
that's
yeah. That was the only thing we were going to do. And then we just went a little crazy.
Yeah.
But also the back living room, we wanted to take out the craftsman style French doors and make it accordion doors to open up because we host a lot, and just to have, like kids running in and out, and it just be open to the outdoor living. But sometimes things don't fit how you imagine them. So now we have sliding doors, which are still great because it lets so much light in, and we can open it all the way up. And it creates a lot more space in the family room, too. So we don't have big doors opening and taking up floor space. So
that makes sense. So when you renovated, did you sort of reimagine what the rooms were going to look like? Or was some of this here pre-renovation?
Yes, a lot of it was here. So we really didn't move any walls or anything like that, but we did want to just update everything, make it more modern. We almost bought another house that was more, it was a true mid-century modern. It was really cool. And for lots of reasons, we decided not to buy it. So I said, let's just modernize this house. And so it started with the trim and the molding and everything else.
Here we are. Yeah.
Place, so.
Well, I'm so curious about how you go about designing a room because you use so much color. So I'm wondering where your starting point is typically, like for this living room, for example. Where did you start?
With the wallpaper. So it's actually really funny. I have the settee over there that's already in the fabric, and that's been in this room for 10 years. I love that pattern so much, and I did want a really bright color in here, so I knew there was going to be a lot of bold color with the lacquer, so I thought that'd be a fun wallpaper, and then we could mix in patterns throughout the room.
So from there, are you just pulling colors out of the wallpaper and placing them throughout the room, or?
Yeah, I always start with the fabric because, color can be very, for lack of a better word, tacky. Like you have to be very methodical, and you've got to mix scales, and you've got to mix solids, and you've got to mix, like I pull bright colors, and it was just the trims to marry two colors. So it takes a minute, and like not even just for this room, I have a whole table where I have this wallpaper, and then I have everything laid out. Like I do have a big pattern in every room because that's what I love. I'm a maximalist, and I love lots of color, lots of pattern. But you have to be careful. So I have, my table with living room, foyer, dining room, and how it flows throughout the house. And I try to make sure that there's one color that kind of carries through the whole home to keep it cohesive.
So you are literally laying out your samples and your colors for each room side by side to make sure there's a flow.
For sure.
That's so smart. And I love the idea of the wallpaper, the fabric as the jumping off point, because it almost gives you like a shortcut because you already know they work together.
Yes.
Because they're already used together. Yeah, that's so smart.
Paint and all that can come after, When you're using bold colors, it has to work together.
And in theory, you could color match paint to the wallpaper.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But it's harder to go the opposite way.
Exactly.
You can't pull a wallpaper to match your paint.
And you can, but then the design's not what it could be because you want to pick the fabric or wallpaper that makes you happy and what you want to be at the start of the room.
You had a few pieces for many years. You have some things that you've just added. So is there sort of like a hierarchy? You've got your solid sofas. You have a subtle print on the floor, kind of a very small scale stripe. How are you kind of laying it out in your mind to where you know that your wallpaper is really going to stay the focal point?
Well, that's the focal point, and then I will try to find smaller scales. So like the carpet is a really small scale, but still rainbow, right? But but you don't notice it really unless you're sitting down and looking at it. And then I definitely want to mix in some bigger print that don't fight too much with the wallpapers like this. That's why I just did an all yellow print, and then kind of the rainbow again, but in a different texture and something to layer it and pull all the color down too without it being, all the same fabric.
So in the hallway, you've used a large scale wallpaper there too. And I'm curious, did you feel like there was symmetry between those two wallpapers and they flowed well? Did you try to, how do you use two wallpapers so close together, but have them not compete?
Well, you have to break it up with color, and you have to break it up with, different carpets or different molding colors. I am a big believer in decorating with what makes you happy. And these are two patterns that I knew I had to have in my home. And so to make them work, I just pulled, other things in, like different fabrics and carpets to marry them.
Got it. Okay.
And because they don't have to, look great side by side, because that would be like putting them in the same room. But when there's a break, like a door, then it's okay. But you have to make sure some of the colors flow.
Okay. So it's the color that you use in both rooms that helps the two wallpapers blend.
For sure. Yes.
Okay. And then the thing that I think is so fun about your style is that there's a lot of elements that are very traditional. The bullion fringe. You've used lots of portraits throughout and, sort of ornate gold frames. And then you've married that with some sleeker silhouettes too. So how did you sort of land on that alchemy of styles?
So I love color, obviously. And then I also just love telling not only my story, but client stories. And so is that oil paintings of family members that were passed down? Or is it the china you inherited from your grandmother? And I want that to all show and be present, because what good is it if it's, hidden? So I like to really marry the traditional elements and modernize them with bright colors, more sharper lines, just because they can work together. But you've got to do it the right way.
Right. We need to have you over to help us. Okay. Because you obviously have mastered the mix.
I'm a Southern girl. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. Everybody's homes are decorated so beautifully, but very traditional. And then I went and lived in New York for a little bit, and the big lights of the city were so exciting to me. And I was like, I can do both. I can like where I'm from, but also modernize it and also surround myself with what makes me happy and energetic and excited.
Okay, so we've talked about the living room, this gorgeous yellow living room. You've got the hallway in between, and then you sort of flow into the hot pink dining room. So tell me where that inspiration came from and what you were trying to achieve in there.
So we have an oil painting in the dining room of Caleb's great aunt, and she has on a pink dress, but it is a very traditional oil painting. So, my first thought was, well, it's also my favorite color. I love pink. Was let's just do it head to toe in hot pink, and not just hot pink, but lacquer. And that's going to totally modernize that traditional oil painting. And I'm going to mix it with modern furniture. So I've got, lucite chairs. I've got a really crazy white lacquered dining table. And then on the back wall, we have a lot of china that we got from our wedding.
I love that wall. Yeah,
it's my favorite. And so when we designed the house, I knew that I had all this china and I didn't want to hide it. So I wanted it to almost act as art and just, look at it and appreciate it. It became a big focal point in there. But so mixed, those traditional items with the modern furniture and colors.
Yes, I love how shapely, there's the big sort of bulbous chandelier. You've got those kind of streamlined lacquer chairs. It's a very dramatic silhouette.
Yeah.
But then they're sort of blended with these fun sort of traditional elements too, the plates and the portrait.
Yeah.
It's such a unique space and certainly dramatic when you walk in the door.
For sure. And I want people to understand our personality. I'd like to say that we're kind of fun and I don't know if we're fun, but we like to have fun. And so when they walk in, I want them to feel good and realize we're not stuffy people. Like we're here to have fun.
Right.
So.
A dinner party in there is guaranteed to be fun.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely a place where you come in and think, I would like to be invited over for dinner. No. So, okay, well, speaking of cooking, what about the kitchen? Was that a part of the renovation or how did that come about?
So we've actually done 2 renovations. And the first time that was the layout that Caleb picked because I said the kitchen's his room. He loves to cook and he wanted to do the open shelving. And again, that's, if you have pretty things, let's look at them and appreciate them. And then it was like a greenish gray when we first did it because that's what he picked. And then because it's in the middle of the house and I use so much color, I wanted it to be white and bright and kind of like, I married all the different colors from the other rooms in the custom colored tile backsplash I had made, and then also carpets and fabrics.
It is a really soft room, despite, kitchens, there's a lot more hardscape, right?
For sure.
So I loved how you use those bold runners, the bold fabric on your stools, the backsplash. It does blend, because otherwise the white kitchen would be a little disjointed. But I love how that backsplash is almost like art on the wall.
Me too.
Tell me about the banquette, because that's a really clever and efficient use of space. What was that before?
So it was part of the kitchen. So when we renovated, I knew that we wanted a bigger kitchen. So that's why we had to have a smaller dining space there. But because it was so small, the banquette saves so much space, right? Like you can fit so many people in the L shape. And it is just a great, cozy little place where we live all the time. That is where we always are.
Yeah, you're a family of 5. So you've got
homework, eating, that's where we are.
And there's this very fun little butler's pantry too that connects the two. And I'm curious about the wall color in there, because you've got that hot pink moment. So tell me about your thinking transitioning from the dining room into the kitchen.
Well, so the dining room is that hot pink, and then when you open up the butler's pantry, it's a really fun, bold wallpaper, and it's got all my favorite, hot pink, turquoise, yellow, everything, and it's just a little bitty spurt of it, right? So then you go into the kitchen, and it's broken up with the white, and then it still pulls in the tile in the kitchen backsplash. One of those colors is what I use for the cabinetry in the butler's pantry. So
I'm not sure I clocked that. So yeah.
So it all, marries together.
Right. It is a pretty open, it's not a new house, but you do have a little bit of an open floor plan because the rooms are so connected. Was that challenging to plan out your colors, or was it something that gave you an opportunity to use more?
Well, because it's my own home, I use a lot more color than most clients are comfortable with. So it's easy for me to pull the colors a little bit here and there so that the openness can work together and feel like they're their own separate spaces. But
so, okay, you've got your kitchen, and then we walk down a little bit into the family room. So tell us about that one and how that came about.
So the house already had the 2 steps down, and the builder was like, oh, we can level it off, but I didn't want a big deck on the back. I wanted it to just stay flush with the backyard, because we like to open up and enjoy both spaces at the same time. So we kept that, and I love that it does have that little nod to a mid-century home. So you walk down the 2 steps and you see the beautiful new sliding doors. You see the fireplace and the art is the focal point, and the TV is hidden kind of behind you. So it's in that L shape, which I just think is so nice.
It's almost like in the kitchen cabinet.
Yeah. So it's not fighting with all the other things that have gone on in the room. So
you were talking about the TV being hidden behind the wall. I loved in there that bold, dramatic valance. Valances are something that are sort of old-fashioned, but you make them very new and fresh. So what is it you love about a valance?
Again, mixing that traditional element, but making it modern. That's what I love to do. So the carpenter almost killed me, but so he had to make it.
Huge.
It's huge. And so we just literally drew it out on craft paper or something.
Right.
And he cut it. And I'm like, oh, no, a little more like that. But he made it, and I love it so much. So the wood, being painted pink is just so much more modern, I think, than a lot of fabric. Because a lot of fabric can make it a little too traditional. But I do love a fabric valance too. You just have to have some modern elements.
Yeah. That is so fun. And because you're up a little bit higher, I think, in the kitchen, it's such a dramatic silhouette to look at. It's really almost like art.
Yeah. It's cool. And then also, because we have those big sliding glass doors, I wanted the drapery to be on a pulley system, right? So it's easy to open and close. And so that kind of hides the...
Smart. Okay. Yeah. I love the reasoning behind it, because that does make it so much more functional.
Yeah.
So what do you do in your family room especially? How do you make it comfortable, but also, standing up to all of the wear and tear with kids?
Yep. So we have 3 kids. One of them is 4, a boy, and he's teaching me a lot about durability because my girls were a lot easier, but he jumps on furniture. He's full of life. So, we definitely have the leather that's easy to wipe. We have carpet that's wool that's easy to clean. We have a lot of performance fabrics, which I feel like you just have to do with families with kids with young ages. And then we also have 4 dogs. So it gets a lot of love in that room. So...
Do you find that the color and the pattern gives you like an extra layer of protection, right?
Yes. So we have the 2 leather sofas. They're solid. They're easy to clean. And then the 2 side chairs I did do in that bright, funky fabric. If something happens, it kind of hides a little better with the fun fabric. So.
Right. I feel like people often worry that the patterns they'll tire of, but they're so much easier to live with just functionally because they hide things. So it's almost a little bit of the reverse. You don't get tired of it because it is wearing so well.
But also, most people do tire of anything and they will want to change it, or they'll have to because it's lived in so hard, in 10 years. Like it might be okay to reupholster your chair. So people do get scared of really colorful, bold fabrics, but once I put 1 or 2 in, they want more.
They've obviously come to you for your style and your color and your pattern mix, but are they ever a little nervous as well?
If I had $1 for every time my husband said in our first consultation, we don't want pink, I'd be living in the Bahamas right now. So yes, people are nervous, and it's really funny because, again, my house is crazy compared to what I do to clients because I could do whatever I wanted here. But I will come up with a design. I always start a little bit on the safer side. And they're like, no, we want more. And I'm like, okay, I just wanted to get a feel for how much color, how much pattern you felt comfortable with. And it's hard for you to tell me that. So we'll start with the design. It's easy for me to add in.
Right. You'll dial it up a little. Yeah. So in that family room, you have the chartreuse wallpaper and the pink built-ins. Where was the color play coming from in there?
The main drapery fabric, because I knew that would be the star of the show, especially under that giant valance. So that is our big, bold wall of color. And then I wanted the other 2 to be a little more subtle. But the ceilings are so high. I wanted the grass cloth to be very chunky and very noticeable. So it kind of made it a little more cozy.
Using a large scale print on the drapery, but then the drapery is always pulled back. Is there ever like a question of what the application is for the pattern? Because it changes the look of the pattern when it's all stacked on the wall.
And I do have to remind clients of that too. Like you won't see the big, bold picture all the time. So it does, but it's just like a fun, abstract piece of art almost.
It's almost like you do color blocking. You've done that a little bit in here. You do have the wallpaper, but then you've got these big sort of swaths of the vibrant color.
Sometimes you need to break up a big busy pattern, especially like this. This is wild in here, but I love it.
Even your transition spaces, the hallway, the butler's pantry, your little mudroom in the back, is there a certain way you think about a transition space, or is it just like you want to make it a wow moment?
I want everything to be a wow moment. But again, I have it all laid out and it takes time. I have all my main busy fabrics laid out, and then I sit down with the colors, and that's the next thing. And then I add in smaller scale fabrics. And, like I said, with the kitchen tile and the butler's pantry, I'll make sure I'm pulling one color from the transition space to make sure it's working with the both rooms adjacent.
I love how fun they are because there's no space is too small to play with and make fun and put effort into, which I think is really unique about your home. So I love seeing that.
Thank you.
And we can all sort of take that into our spaces, taking your laundry room or just the lockers for all your kid stuff.
And I'm just a big believer in your surroundings affect the way you feel. And I will just say that forever. You've probably heard me say it before. So you need to decorate with what makes you happy. And maybe it's not a bright yellow, maybe it's a soft blue, but there's always a color that makes you feel good. And that's what you have to dial into and use. And then just remember, it is just decor. It can change. It's just paint. It can change, It's people are so scared to commit, but it's easy to change.
Right.
But you won't want to if you pick the color you love.
Yeah, right. And I imagine sometimes you're pulling from closets, a color you like to wear or, your favorite lipstick or something.
Yeah.
Tell us about the bedroom, because that was fun to see just because you've done a lot of what you've done in the rest of the house, but it's a little bit more, not monotone, but you're using almost one color all over.
Yeah, lots of blues and turquoises. And I just wanted that to be a place where we can relax at the end of the day, and it's just a little more serene than the rest of the house. Like these rooms were created to energize you, make you happy, make you want to have fun, and there is where you wind down and you, you know, calm down for the day. So need a little less bright.
There's a lot of white on your, you know, because of your bedding. You've got, again, the color blocking. And I loved seeing the teeny little touch of purple, but it's mostly just that sort of blue.
And that is my husband's room too, but he loves color too. But I just thought maybe that's where we'll go crazy with blues.
Right.
It was a fun.
Take us upstairs. You've got your 3 kids' bedrooms. Did they have some opinions? You're in charge at the end of the day. What's happening over there?
I am in charge at the end of the day, but I do take into account what they want and what they like. When Mary Jennings, our oldest, was a baby, I decorated her room in a whole Trina Turk, pink, orange, yellow theme, and it's kind of grown with her, and she loves that, and she leans towards that. And she is more modern. She likes clean lines. She's my clean child. She keeps everything in order. And then I have Lottie, who's my middle child, who is also full of life, and she's into drama and theater and art. So her room's a little more interesting, like with lots of little things to look at. And so they all fit their personalities, you know, and they are allowed to put whatever up and what they want to do, you know, just to make it their room. Because I do think that's important.
Right. Well, obviously, that's what you're doing. So it's kind of nice to give them the opportunity too. Yeah,
for sure.
Were you a little decorator when you were young? Is that something you were interested in at a young age?
Yes. So my mom was a decorator, and my uncle owned an upholstery shop. And or my grandfather did, and my uncle worked there too. And then my grandmother had a little home decor store. So I spent my days after school listening to Wilson Phillips and like flipping through fabric books. Like I swear they were Kravet. Like now I didn't know that then, but my mom was the one who kind of instilled that in me because she is really good at decorating. Our house has always been beautiful.
Do you have any rules or sort of guiding principles that you keep in mind? Obviously, you mentioned laying all your fabrics out, having colors that connect the rooms. Anything that sort of makes you think, okay, this is the line I can't cross, or this is my threshold for what I'm good with?
So I don't have any actual design rules. It's just when you're using a lot of color, you do, have to lay it out and make sure everything flows. So make sure that you have colors that, move from room to room so that they transition well, because you can't have a yellow room next to a pink room, but not have any pink in the yellow room. Like it all needs to have a little bitty hint of what's coming next.
Right. That makes sense. And I think your point about the wallpaper and having that starting off point, whether it's wallpaper or fabric, as your guiding light, that's really smart. Well, thank you for inviting us in and sharing your happy, colorful home with us. There's so many little beautiful moments. I love the way you've styled everything.
Well, thank you.
The sculptures and the flowers, and color is just your secret weapon.
I love it.
Or not so secret weapon, I guess.
No, yeah. I try to put it out there.
Yeah. Your superpower. How's that?
It's my superpower. It's hard to do. I mean, I think for most people, it's not for me, but you do have to be careful because it can look crazy.
Yeah. For more house tours like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Ballard Designs YouTube channel and follow us on social media.